Stop believing the fairy tale that happily married couples never fight. You will look around your own home and realize that's a total myth. Conflict is guaranteed, but the secret to longevity isn't zero arguments. It's the balance that Gottman found, a mathematical miracle he calls the magic ratio. Specifically, for every negative moment, disagreements, sharp words, irritation, fearless couples need 5 positive emotional buffers to survive. Think of your relationship like an emotional bank account. A fight is basically writing yourself a massive withdrawal. To avoid going broke, you have to keep the ledger positive, depositing buckets of kindness and appreciation that cushion the blow. When you hit that 5-to-1 ratio, even the deepest criticisms dissolve like sugar in water because the emotional safety net is strong enough to hold you. It's not about being perfect, it's about having enough surplus happiness to outlast any storm. Ever noticed how a single angry outburst can shatter a perfect Sunday? That isn't just relationship drama, it's hardwired survival. Science calls this phenomenon the negativity bias. Our brains act as primitive alarm systems, constantly scanning for threats, which makes one critical comment feel physically 5 times heavier than 5 compliments. Think of your relationship like walking through a swamp. A single compliment is a sturdy stepping stone, but one fresh criticism acts like treacherous quicksand that you sink into instantly. You can't just accumulate nice moments to repair a bad one, because those negative memories stick like glue while the good feelings blow away in the wind. That is why relationships inevitably crumble if we don't consciously keep score to balance the scale. Imagine analyzing the private conversations of 3,000 couples for 4 decades. That is the massive undertaking Dr. John Gottman undertook to scientifically decode the secrets of enduring love. He didn't just look for perfect couples, he tracked real ones falling apart. And what he found is a mathematical rule that defies our common sense. The secret isn't a total avoidance of conflict. It is a delicate, ongoing balance known as the 5-to-1 ratio. For every single moment of stinging criticism or defensiveness, the toxic negativity that weathers your relationship, it requires a massive influx of 5 positive interactions to counterbalance it. Without that strong emotional buffer, even the smallest argument feels like an avalanche. So to build a marriage that doesn't crumble under pressure, stop trying to just put out fires. Start lighting a fireworks show of appreciation that outshines the darkness. They call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. But on a Tuesday night, these 4 communication styles are far more lethal to your happiness than any plague. Imagine the magic 5-to-1 ratio as the safety net for your relationship. Without it, you eventually fall. Now picture that net being slashed to ribbons. Criticism wields a sword at your partner's character, leaving deep emotional wounds rather than fixing the sink. Contempt is the sand thrown in the gears, a subtle sneer or eye roll that a stick wears like armor, signaling, "I'm better than you." Add heavy-duty defensiveness, which builds high, impenetrable walls trapping you in conflict, and stonewalling, where one partner simply shuts down and stops engaging. These aren't just arguments. They are relationship bombs. They instantly wreak havoc on your emotional bank account. Before you can bring the positivity back up, you have to effectively capture these horsemen. But let's start by asking, are any of them hiding in your silence? Stop and think for a moment about the last 24 hours and play amateur statistician with your own heart. Gottman discovered that true intimacy isn't just about love, it's a mathematical balance sheet where 5 positive interactions must outweigh every negative one to build a foundation of safety. Imagine your relationship as a ping-pong game. One sharply struck negative swing, like a sarcasm-filled comment or a dismissive tone, creates a screeching noise that demands 5 gentle, affirming hits to smooth over. Look back at your recent days. If you feel like you're winning with a score of 5-to-1, you are swimming in a reservoir of trust. But if you're tallying up floor upon floor of doubt and defensiveness, realizing that your positives are barely a rounding error, you aren't just in a slump, you're in a spiral. Let's look at the devastating cost of ignoring that critical ratio and why a declining score can pull even the strongest couples under. Think about how easily you'd drop your best friend if you stopped calling just because things were fine. Yet, strangely, we often allow this exact same slow erosion to creep into our marriages without batting an eye. This is the silent killer known as marital drift. It isn't typically an explosive argument that ends a relationship. It's the absence of anything at all. Happy couples don't just avoid conflict 95% of the time. They actively maintain a running mental tally of affection. They offer good morning, a shared laugh, or a thoughtful question 5 times as often as they make a mistake. Unhappy couples stop counting. They stop looking up, eventually treating a partner less like a spouse and more like background furniture. When the emotional math gets lost in the daily noise, the oxygen in the relationship gets sucked out. Before you know it, you're living next to a stranger. So, how do you stop the drift and grab that emotional thermometer before it hits zero? Let's break down the specific counts. Let's turn the scientific theory into a daily habit that actually feels good. Every day you stumble upon what researchers call a bid for connection, that tiny moment when your partner glances at a squirrel on the fence and says, "Hey, look at that." Successful couples don't ignore this. They respond. They say yes about 86% of the time, actively watering the nutrient-rich soil of their marriage rather than letting it dry out. This isn't just nice. It creates a safety net you'll want to rely on. And let's face it, no garden is immune to frost. That's when repair attempts become vital. It's not about being right. It's about stopping the bleed. Maybe it's a silly face, a self-deprecating joke, or just a pause to breathe. These are the fertilizers you scatter to keep the weeds of resentment from choking your bond. Tend your soil well and love will stay planted. Look, the 5-to-1 ratio is magic. But what happens if your emotional bucket has holes the size of canyons? You could pour in 5 gallons of kindness, but that affection simply drains away into the crushing weight of criticism. Psychologists call this the 3-1 tolerance warning, a tipping point where negativity gets so toxic that love just suffocates. It feels like trying to keep a campfire roaring while dousing it with gasoline. The frantic activity doesn't mean you're warm, it means you're on fire. In these gray zones, the math just stops working. Stacking compliments in a crumbling house feels like sweeping dirt under the rug. It's still just dust. At that point, that loving ratio isn't a return policy, it's a trap. When the toxicity eats away at your soul, you stop worrying about the score and start looking for the exit. Because sometimes, the only way to heal is to burn the bridge to the ground. Let's stop treating romantic love like a grand fireworks display and start treating it like a comfortable pair of jeans. We know intuitively that we crave safety, the feeling that we can just show up, even when we're messy. These micro moments are the emotional security system of your marriage, fleeting takes of connection that Gottman calls bids for repair. They happen when your partner mentions a minor annoyance, and your immediate brain fatigue screams to disagree. But here's the psychological trick of the masters, the strategic validation. When you say, "You know what, you're right," you aren't admitting defeat, you are handing them a safety net. You are instantly lowering their stress hormones and flipping a switch from a fight-or-flight mode to warmth. It's the difference between crashing into a wall and soft landing in a mattress. By choosing safety over being right, you protect the 5-to-1 ratio ruthlessly. It feels small, like a pebble thrown in a pond, but it creates a massive ripple of trust. Once we understand how to spot these soft lands, you'll be rewriting your relationship code. Let's be real for a moment. Nobody is going to film themselves hugging for 20 hours just to win an argument. However, Dr. John Gottman's research suggests that happy couples virtually eliminate their negativity by maintaining a 5-to-1 ratio. That means for every negative interaction, your "why don't you take out the trash" moment, you need a minimum of 5 pure, unadulterated positive to cancel it out. Think of it like an emotional savings account where you have a massive overdraft. Your homework for this week is to become hyper-vigilant. If you stub your toe and snap at your partner in the morning, don't just apologize. You must stack the deck by acknowledging, thanking, or praising them 5 times before the day ends. It's messy, but it works. Let's stop counting flaws and start stacking the positives. Ultimately, viewing the 5-to-1 ratio as a math problem is where most couples get lost. We're not asking you to holster a calculator every evening. We're asking you to build a fortress. Picture your marriage as a safety net for a trapeze artist. Every harsh word or snapped response is a dangerous high-wire act. The necessity lies in those 5 positive encounters for every single negative moment. It's not a rule, but it's your emergency cushion. It takes active work to keep that net woven tight. But when life inevitably pulls you off balance, that surplus of care and connection is what catches you. You protect your partner in the bad times, so you can hold each other in the good. Now, are you ready to calculate if your safety net is actually big enough to catch you?